Texans with shoulder soreness as he recovers from off-season, shoulder surgery, and two sources called it a dead arm. According to our Adam Schefter, Chip Kelly says it's not long-term, it's day-to-day, and that he feels better as he goes, but they aren't going to push him so Cap can have a proper evaluation. Oh, Mark, how we doing?
I'm doing good. How are
Thanks
you guys?
Thanks for joining us. Always good to see you.
Welcome to the show, man. It's always good to see you.
Been on since
Used to seeing you on the West Coast.
Yes. Yeah.
He prefers seeing you in Bristol.
Does he?
Yes, he does.
You know what? I feel like that's not true.
Max, Mark, let's not beat around the bush. Is Colin Kaepernick's the career done in the NFL?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. Number one, you're so busy rehabbing your opposite shoulder that you get into camp and you start throwing. I mean, that's not what you're really working on when you're rehabbing other injuries, which he's had plenty of. And so the dead arm is to be expected to some degree because you haven't built up the requisite arm strength to basically get yourself through camp because you've been rehabbing other injuries. So that's not a Colin Kaepernick issue. That arm strength and his arm will come back eventually. I think the big thing for me, the takeaway from Sunday night's game between the 49ers in that game, and I thought the biggest takeaway for me watching the 49ers was Colin Kaepernick actually advanced in the competition between he and Blaine Gabbert based on the way Blaine Gabbert played. Like, he sat on the sideline, and I thought he gained in the competition because Blaine Gabbert was that bad. Yep. And, you know, it's interesting. Blaine Gabbert, 4 of 10, and he had the one long touchdown pass to Vance McDonald. But here's the deal. They probably set up 3 or 4 just easy connections. I mean, easy connections, little swing pass out of the backfield. He was so awful. There were 4 of his 6 incompletions that didn't even come close to getting to a wide receiver. So I've got, or a running back, or the intended target. So I've got to believe they're sitting there in San Francisco right now going, man, let's rub buttermilk on Colin Kaepernick's arm and do whatever we need to do to get this guy right because we need this competition to be legit because Blaine Gabbert right now, based on just that first preseason game, and they ran it exceptionally well, San Francisco did, just based on that game alone, you'd have to look at it and go, wow, we're in trouble right now at the quarterback position.
Let me tell you something. Our former colleague here, Chris Carter, was very fond of saying every Sunday morning, Blaine Gabbert stinks.
Right.
That's what he would say. Blaine Gabbert did nothing to disprove that notion in this first preseason game. He did look awful. But I think Colin Kaepernick is done in San Francisco. He may not be done with his NFL career, but I think he's done in San Francisco, and here is why. His skill set, or whatever you want to call it, he can run the football. He isn't the most accurate thrower. His athleticism, his success primarily predicated on his athleticism. One would surmise that that helps you playing for Chip Kelly. The flip side to it, however, is what did we always say about Colin Kaepernick? Attitude, ability to ingratiate himself with teammates, players, and win. A losing situation is not going to lend itself towards Colin Kaepernick becoming a better quarterback for his 3rd coach in as many seasons. It's just not going to work that way. I don't see it happening, and I think that ultimately the end is near. He wanted out for a reason. They couldn't work out something in Denver. I think that they're going to be stuck with Blaine Gabbert because I don't think Colin Kaepernick...
On the surface, I can't figure this out. I know there are contractual reasons and money reasons. Often that's the case in the NFL, Mark, but Chip Kelly is studying Kaepernick in Nevada because he wants to run that kind of system.
Right.
He doesn't have that kind of quarterback in recent years in the NFL. He gets the job on the surface. From where I'm sitting, I'm going, oh, look at that. They wanted to work with Kaepernick. He's got the guy there now. He has a terrible option in Blaine Gabbert, and still they can't make it work with Kaepernick? What am I missing?
Right. No, I think you can. I mean, obviously, he's got to get healthy enough to be able to actually compete for this job. That's number one. But I think there are a couple of things when you look at Colin Kaepernick just from a pure mechanical standpoint. He's got a real elongated motion. And people always talk about becoming a real drop-back quarterback and changing those things. You get to this point in your life, you kind of are what you are. I don't know that you ever really change that. Can you mitigate it? Can you manage it based on the play action, based on the running game, based on all those different things that you're trying to do?
Especially when you don't have the personnel to go with it.
If you're Chip Kelly, I believe you can manage those things, and you can.
He managed to get to a Super Bowl, Colin Kaepernick.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, in that style of offense. So, yeah, I would think that they would have a desire in San Francisco to have Colin Kaepernick actually at least compete for this. One, because Blaine Gabbert is what he is at this point also. I don't think, there's very few times over the course of my NFL career and then being an NFL analyst where I've actually seen a reclamation project, where I've seen, a guy like Rich Gannon go from journeyman to MVP. It just doesn't happen very often. And I don't think that's going to happen with Blaine Gabbert. So I just think this is still going to be a wide-open competition.
Yep. So not done in the NFL, Stephen A. You just think he might be done
I think he's done
with
in
the
San Francisco.
49ers.
He's done in San Francisco.
Mark Schlereth sticking around, which we appreciate. When we come back, which running back will have the biggest year in fantasy? Can a guy get it done? Adrian Peterson at 31 years young. We will answer that after the break. Stay here.
You're the expert in fantasizing about football, is that right?
Yes, that's what they tell me.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Thank you.
And I'll see you in the final, Matthew Berry.
Listen, I'm not saying one word about Matthew Berry today, as he is awake for all 28 hours of our fantasy football marathon presented by DraftKings. He started, he will finish tonight at 11 o'clock, and he is, of course, our fantasy expert. I am here with our draft experts, because we've got Mel Kiper from the Kiper compound as well, as we continue to talk fantasy football all day long. And Todd, I'll start with you. I'll get answers from you both, but your top 5 rookie running backs as we get ready for drafts.
Talked a lot about Ezekiel Elliott, the running back from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Dallas Cowboys take him early. Think he's got a chance in that system with that offensive line to have a big rookie year. Derrick Henry, Mel will talk about him more, likes his power and fit in terms of that smash mouth offense that they want to be. Kenyon Drake is an intriguing player because of his versatility and his speed. Big-time speed in the open field if they can get him the ball, catching the ball, reverses, and in the return game. The player I think is most intriguing is Paul Perkins out of UCLA. One of the toughest backs I've evaluated in the last few years. He's only 5'9", 208 pounds, but he's willing to block anybody. He can stay on the field. There's a lot of different backs in New York, but the Giants do not have that premier back. So Perkins, as the season progresses, won't surprise me if he winds up with a little bit of a bigger load and contributing as a pass catcher as well.
Almost 1.1 million teams drafted since we started this, Mel, so people are paying attention. Who are your top 5 rookie running backs?
Well, you pay attention, Wendy, because these running backs will contribute right away. It's not a great group. After the top 2, we've talked a lot about Henry and Elliott. We expect big years out of both those kids. I think at number 3, that's the debate. Who would be the 3rd best running back? Early returns suggest Devontae Booker, the Denver Broncos, out of the Utah U program. Slippery runner, great balance. You think you have him down, you don't. Continues on for extra yards. I like the chances of Booker having a nice rookie year, contributing heavily to that Denver Bronco rushing attack. Kenneth Dixon, crowded situation at running back for the Baltimore Ravens, but Dixon's looked really good so far. And that 3rd down return man, Tyler Ervin out of San Jose State for the Houston Texans. Same role could be for C.J. Prosise in Seattle if he can get back off that injury list. And I'm with you on Kenyon Drake, Todd, but he had injury issues at Alabama, injury issues already with the Dolphins. Can he stay healthy for a full 16-game schedule? If he does, he'll help Ryan Tannehill in that Dolphin offense.
For what it's worth, a lot of folks vying for Ezekiel Elliott. He sold more jerseys than any other rookie in that 2016 class. We continue 28 straight hours leading up to a fantasy celebrity draft tonight. Get started. Download the new ESPN Fantasy app. It's brand new. And if you do so during our marathon, you'll get a chance to win a number of great prizes, including a chance for your whole team to draft next year's teams, surrounded by our ESPN experts. Right now, though, Molly and First Take, we send it back to you.
I love it. Hi, Wendy. Welcome back to ESPN's Fantasy Football Marathon presented by DraftKings. So we had Mel and Todd breaking down the rookies. And so far, we've talked about quarterbacks and wide receivers, so now we want to look at those running backs. Adrian Peterson was the top fantasy running back in 2015, despite being 30 years old. He led the league in rushing yards and tied for the league lead in rushing TDs. Now he's 31, and only 4 running backs in the last 20 seasons have produced 200 fantasy points in a season at that age. He helped the Vikings win the NFC North last season, so can Peterson carry the team back to the playoffs? For that question, hello, Matthew Berry. We welcome Matthew back. Barry, what do you think here? Who's the best fantasy running back this year?
Hi, Molly. I think there's a lot of people that you could choose. My number 1 ranked running back is Adrian Peterson. And it's not necessarily because of his ceiling, but
but because of his floor. We always talk about in fantasy, you can't win your league in the first round. You can lose it. You want safe. And that high floor for Adrian Peterson, every single season that he's played more than one game in the NFL, he's scored double-digit touchdowns. Yes, he is 31. He's also inhuman. This guy had the second best NFL rushing season in history 9 months after an ACL. So you think about that offense that they run in Minnesota. They want to run the ball, play good defense, win close ball games. Being indoors this year will certainly help Peterson. And adding Laquan Treadwell, another year of Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. They're adding to that passing game. Teddy Bridgewater a little more comfortable. I think they'll spread the offense a little bit more. Adrian Peterson, very safe. He's my #1 running back in fantasy this year.